This is an ABC News special report.
Tonight, a bank has been seized by state and federal regulators. This is the biggest bank failure since 2008.
The value of Silicon Valley's investments plummeted.
I tell you, when I walk out of this damn bank, I'm going to get on Twitter, I'm going to blast the hell. Lady, I don't care who the you call. This is ridiculous.
Came out and told us that the bank is shut down.
And you won't take it. And you won't make an exception.
President Biden has been trying to reassure Americans that everything is safe, their money is secure. Is that message resonating?
Not quite yet.
President Biden is about to address the nation over growing concerns about America's economy and the banking industry after the failure of 2 U.S. banks in 3 days.
Briefly speak about what's happening to Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank.
In this video, I'll discuss about the collapse and tragic downfall of Silicon Valley Bank, which was once the 16th largest bank in the US, and how the second biggest bank failure in the United States occurred. We will also examine the reason behind the bank's collapse and its impact on the banking industry, especially for startup companies and investors in the technology sector, and how it will even impact yourself. So what's Silicon Valley Bank, you may be asking? Well, Silicon Valley Bank, also known as SVB, was established in the year 1983. It focused on providing funding and banking services for startup companies that were backed by venture capital, mostly in the technology industry. Many venture capital firms and technology executives use the bank for their business's needs. SVB became famous for its specialization in financing and banking for venture capital-backed startup companies, which helped them become the 16th largest bank in the US. Silicon Valley Bank is currently recognized as the largest US bank failure since the year 2008.
This is the biggest bank failure since 2008 in the city.
The bank experienced significant financial difficulties that led to its own collapse. As a result, the bank was unable to meet its financial obligations and was forced to close down. This event had a significant impact on the banking industry, particularly for companies in the technology and startup sectors that relied on the bank's funding and banking services. So now, I'll talk about why most people clicked on this video for, which is, why did Silicon Valley Bank fail? Well, Silicon Valley Bank failed for several reasons. In fact, the first reason was that the bank made the mistake of putting too much money into a limited number of investments. This is risky because if those investments don't do well, the bank could lose a lot of money. The bank invested most of its assets in the technology industry, which was doing well during the pandemic. However, they failed to diversify their investments, which made them at risk to the market's volatility. The second reason why the bank collapsed was that a lot of customers got scared and wanted back their money. People ended up withdrawing all of their hard-earned money from the bank all at once, which is also known as a bank run. Customers were worried that the bank might not be able to pay back their money, so they wanted to get out their money as quickly as possible. And because Silicon Valley made terrible and limited investments, they ended up lacking the funds to pay back their people. You see, most people who had put their money in SVB were new businesses that had received huge investments from investors. The bank was doing well at first. These factors eventually led to its own failure. So now, let's talk about the impact the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank had and how it will eventually impact yourself. Silicon Valley Bank collapse had a significant impact on the banking industry, particularly for companies in the technology and startup sectors. Many startup companies and investors rely on the bank's funding services, and when the bank failed, they were left with a difficult situation. They had to find new sources of funding and banking services, which was not easy, especially during a pandemic when the economy was struggling. The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank also had a negative effect on the US economy. The bank was a significant player in the banking industry, and its failure led to a ripple effect. It caused panic among investors and customers, which led to a decrease in confidence in the banking industry. It also resulted in a decrease in the number of loans the banks were willing to give out, which had a negative effect on the economy. So recently, another bank, which is known as Signature Bank, has also failed. Signature Bank had a lot of assets and deposits. In fact, Signature Bank had $110 billion in assets and $89 billion in customer deposits. If this trend continues, it could be bad news for the banking industry as a whole and for the economy. It could lead to a ripple effect that could set the US back years from economic growth. President Joe Biden recently put out a statement saying the following: everyone who had money in Silicon Valley Bank would eventually get their money back. However, people may not realize that hundreds of billions of dollars will end up being printed, increasing the money supply and making the dollar worth less. As more money is printed, your dollar decreases in value and the price of goods increases. Ultimately, this is how inflation starts, and it will affect us all. It's time to be cautious where you keep and invest your money. Be sure to diversify your investments and keep an eye out for any potential bank failures in the future. Make sure you subscribe to my channel to stay updated during these unpredictable and unprecedented times. Thanks for watching. It's been your boy Kendrick. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys on my next video, and I'm out. Peace.